everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's the Tuber. Welcome back. If this is your second Perry Mason Season 2 episode review, feels weird to say that finally after 3 years of waiting for the season to come out. Here we are, second episode now. We're well into, like, whatever, any mystery show, we're already well into, like, now into the actual depths of the plot. No longer is the hand holding is over. We're now back into this world full time. And this episode, I honestly feel like, is where, like, things are starting to really, this is like the classic Perry Mason from the last season where they did something differently. It felt like they took what episode 1 was of Perry Mason last year or last time and just put them into two separate things, giving more time to set up what the actual case is about, and now getting into, like, who is sadly the person that is sadly getting accused, and we're going to speculate on who actually did it. In this case, this is what the episode answers, where we pick up with where the last episode left off, immediately getting into, like, who is the new Emily Dodson for the season, so to speak. And how does Perry and Della have to kind of, like, get themselves back into, like, that mindset, because they haven't done a murder mystery since Della's. I mentioned that Della, since Emily's case 6 months ago. Also, yeah, this episode does confirm that, well, I'm pretty sure they clarified in the last episode, but this episode kind of made it clear, like, yeah, it's been 6 months since season 1 ended, so it's been some time. Does confirming it yet. So 6 months is not a new year, but still kind of feels like a new year. But I really like how this episode, like, really, like, it just kept speeding up at many times. Like, it felt coherent. It felt like that there is something worth telling. There's definitely more layers. It is a little bit more straightforward. I'll give it that. I think so. I think it was just trying to, like, you know, not ease the burden too much on the mystery, but I still am very much intrigued on how everything was figured out in terms of, like, you know, obviously the villain side of things, like the opposing side had is, like, why is the accused selected out of everyone in the world? Why is what is the whole importance? Who actually is the people really responsible for this? And, you know, there's just so many questions that have to be figured out there. But yeah, let's get into the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Perry Mason. So we begin, like I said, with the last episode, leaving off with the rich guy is dead. I don't remember his name, so I'm just gonna keep calling him the rich dude. Well, the rich guy's son. He's dead. And now we're getting into, like, the usual news cycle of, like, you know, the pronouncing of the dead. They're working on the case right now, and then immediately after, they have their two suspects. This pair of low-class brothers. I forgot what ethnicity they are, but they're Hispanic Latinos, and, you know, they're immediately we come to a morning where cops go into their house. They literally arrest them, give them, like, I think the worst treatment in the world. Like, it is all just, you know, very much brutal, very much well, not brutal, I can say, like, they were, like, hitting on them, but, like, they were, like, very aggressive with them. Obviously, they have no idea what the fuck is going on. We didn't know what the fuck is going on, and I got confused for a second. Like, was this part of something else? But, like, oh no, they're being accused of the murder, and I'm most likely sure, like, yeah, they didn't kill him. They didn't kill the guy. But, like, you know, like, the DA is already, like, proclaiming, like, they're the villains. We found them. We will punish them to the full extent of the law, and, you know, make sure they never see the light of day again. No way that they literally pick two innocent people and literally are just using them as, like, fall cover, so to speak. Meanwhile, I want to say we pick back up with Perry's side of things. I forgot where entirely we start off with. I want to say we immediately just start off in Sonny's Sonny's grocery, where, you know, he's still hiring them as retainers, so he's still asking them for legal advice about, you know, what is the next move for them. You know, he wants to, like, you know, start getting more suppliers in, making up more contracts. That's where Perry and Della come in. But again, it's more Civil War. It's more literally, like, small time things that pay the bills. Perry's getting bored of it. Let's be honest there. Della's kind of like, okay, we're trying here. We're just trying to make some money here. We're trying to, like, go along with things, so to speak. Perry's like, oh yeah, no, this is just regular contract work. Nothing we can really much do. They return back to their office where they're met by the wife and the mother of the two brothers we saw earlier in the episode at the beginning. They're there to, like, plead with Perry since he did win. Well, not really win, but more like really help Emily at a big turnaround where everything was against her 6 months ago. They're hoping that he's able to do it again with her sons. Perry's like, they already have a public defender assigned to their case, so technically I can't take over a case that's not assigned to me. That's against the law. And second of all, I'm not doing criminal law anymore. I'm mostly doing civil stuff, so I'm not really the right person to it. I can help push you in the right direction to get the defendant back more into your context, but right now the only thing I can do is just that. And even Della's like, but you can tell both of them, like, they kind of really want to do it. Like, they really want to take this case on. It definitely is going to break the monopoly of life. You kind of get purpose again. But I did especially like the scene where where the mother was doing most of the speaking and being the more optimistic one, hoping, and the wife was kind of like, brash and just saying like, you help Emily, like, you got her out of it, and like, we were hoping you would do the same thing. And Perry said like, I didn't help her, again referring to the fact that Emily at the end committed suicide, which again did suck. And Perry doesn't really consider that much of a victory anymore, since like, yeah, he got her not to die in prison, but she still died at her own hand. So like, it's still not like the biggest victory in the world. So sadly, they send them away, not being able to take the case at all. But however, Della and Perry, being their own, like, a little rebellious in them, do the separate thing to eventually awaken them to the fact of doing it. Before we get to that, Drake meets up with Strick, who for some reason is eating behind a restaurant, Lady in the Tramp style, just not with spaghetti and meatball. Like, I think it's beef stew or something. I don't know why he just yeah, I'll take your finest table in the back alley of your restaurant. Jesus Christ. So Drake said, like, I really haven't seen anything. Like, no one wants to kill the man. Like, everyone is just business. And then, Strick points at this one photo of, like, who's this guy? He's like, oh, it's a loan shark, but, like, yeah, loan shark may be sketchy, but again, remember, he's actually doing good work for the community. So the money that he's probably borrowing, while it may not be legal to get that money, he is still putting it back into the community that really needs it the most. But Strick says, you know what? You did good. That was it for this case. You've done your job. Like, there will hopefully be more work for you down the road. However, when Drake returns home, deciding to like splurge a little bit, get some nice Oreos, get some like fresh vegetables. I don't really know. I didn't live back then with the 40s and everything. Oreo boxes look so much different back then than now, of course. However, sad to say is that when his brother was reading the newspaper, he found that the man that Drake was following to protect them actually just got arrested today due to being involved with loan sharks. So that's when Drake realized there was no threat against him. Strick was just looking for somebody to accuse him of and to arrest him of, and he got it. And now Drake's like, fuck, what did I do? I literally like took away a good human being and put him off the streets. What the hell do I do now? And thankfully his wife is supportive. Like, that wasn't, his mistake and it wasn't his fault and everything. He just followed orders, and, he was thinking of his family, but, that is still a good person that he got off, he sadly removed off the streets for false information. Of course, he does blame Perry a little bit, deep down, because, yeah, Perry did tell Strick, like, can you get him a job? Whether or not Perry actually vetted the job or not is still unclear at this point. I'm pretty sure he didn't, but let's just say Drake is not entirely happy right now with the fact that what he just committed. Meanwhile, speaking of Strick, Perry and Strick are having a little bit of a jam session at his apartment, catching up on old times. Because since Strick went straight with the DA's office, he hasn't really been able to hang out with Perry that much. Also, like, legally, they're not supposed to be together considering the fact they're on opposing sides. But they say fuck it. And they're talking a little bit, and he also gives more details about what happened to Emily. Turns out Emily is technically not dead. So the real Emily Dawson is dead, but as you remember at the end of season 1, which I almost forgot, like, not forget, but I was like a little confused, that Emily, the religious preacher from last season, played by Tatiana Maslany, who's not in the season, sadly, they left to go tour the country promoting the fact that, like, yeah, we did resurrect the baby, and, Emily's still alive, and, like, so the real Emily died, but they just found another lookalike woman off the street, and they're making her Emily just to keep the act alive. They're like, no, Emily and her baby are still alive. They're still going strong, and, yeah, it's just a bummer to see that. And, obviously Perry's still holed up on grief that, like, that he wasn't able to do more for her at the time. And, he also tells them, like, yeah, I just got asked by the family that, if they want to take on the case. And, obviously he said no because of obvious reasons. But the more you think about it, he's like, you know what? it doesn't hurt to do a little research. So he does, and his research decides for him to actually break into the garage that the car is being stored. He actually laced a chew toy because there was a guard dog with like I want to say I forget what the name is for the anesthesia for the dog, and he knocks him out, and he's basically measuring the distance because in the official story it states that the shooter it was not like a close fire shot. It was like a long distance like a medium-sized distance shot. It wasn't the longest shot in the world, but it wasn't the closest shot in the world. It wasn't either. It was like behind him. So Perry does the measurements, finds some inconsistencies. So he decides, you know what, maybe it's time to pay the brothers a visit. But he doesn't have entirely time for that right now because the next day comes and he has to go meet his son. And this is the first time we got to see his ex-wife and his son in action. We didn't get to see them in season 1. So I guess since becoming an attorney, Perry decided to turn over a new leaf. Decided to like be a much more responsible father, and also apparently he's not that far from his kid now. So I'm like, I don't know what entirely was that motivation, but because it seemed like in season 1, like it was a much further away thing. I think that's what they were implying. So I'm not sure if they moved closer to be with Perry or Perry made the distance. I'm not really so sure, but anyway, so they're there. They have a little PTC with the teacher, played by Catherine Watterson, who is well known, I think, for at least in my community, for playing damn, I forgot she was barely in 3 in Fantastic Beasts. Damn, I forgot her name. She was the Newt Scamander's love interest. I forgot her name. I'm sorry, it's been forever since I watched Fantastic Beasts. But she's playing her school teacher, and they're basically having a very casual scene. I think this was a nice scene to like service that Perry is trying to get back in his family's good graces, that he's trying to like be a responsible dad again. So that definitely the scene, like having him like actually participate was pretty good. Meanwhile, for the previous night over, I forgot, Della goes out on a to be a dinner date for the DA who was taking on the case, pleading with him for him to like at least set some sort of plea deal, some sort of like something to get the brothers out of it right now. And he's like, no way, I just became DA like a month ago. I'm ready to do a big case that's going to put me on the map. Because eventually he's going to have to be elected and everything again, so he already needs to be on the good graces right now. So he's already thinking more about his career rather than the safety of these two individuals. So again, the whole point of Perry Mason is that everyone's self-centered, everyone cares about themselves. Perry Mason is the only one that actually thinks about the other people. The event they're attending is, I think, it's just a social gathering between a lot of rich people, and this is mainly good for the DA because he's able to like talk to a bunch of potential investors into his potential campaign in the future. And Della's just like, no, do your thing, man. Like, I'm just here to be your eye candy, so to speak. She also does have a brief conversation with the I forgot what the host of the party, and they're conversing about something I completely forgot whether it was any significant. But the whole point of that night is that Della's becoming more and more interested in the case itself. We cut to the next day where, of course, Perry's off meeting his son, so he misses his meeting with Della. Della converts with her assistant and saying that, oh yeah, by the way, the little girl, the daughter of one of the brothers, left her toy here the other day. So Della says, you know what, I'm gonna go pay them a visit. I'm gonna go drop it off myself to them, which she does. She heads over to the very rural, very small time town within the larger California area. She goes to see them, and initially they are hopeful that, oh, you're here to take the case, like you actually want to like help them. And she's like, no, like we're not here for them. Like I'm just here because your daughter, she just forgot her toy. The wife is more getting off on her. It's like, that you're not giving us a chance. Like we know you want to help us. We can tell, like, because you've been very engaged with us so far that you really want to help us. And of course, obviously, there's a lot of factors to it. At least at this point, she doesn't know Perry wants to take on the case, as well as she doesn't even think there is a case here to worth to save. But it was a very powerful scene that that Della is actually like, this is like kind of like the reawakening moment she needs to at least on her part to accept the case as well. Meanwhile, Perry goes to visit the two brothers, does a little tape measure test with them, tries to get their side of the story. So apparently the only reason why they were even considered, like they weren't just two random, so they were picked up of a lineup from a bus driver who was nearby the car. And the only reason why they were picked up because he saw them that often. He saw them a lot because they took the bus a lot on that time period because they go to collect bottles at night to go make some extra money for the family, and that this was needed for them. And during that night, they found a wallet in one of the disposal bins. It was empty, but he found one gold coin left inside, and he decided to take it because he thought like, oh, we pawn it off and everything, we can get a good amount of money here. Of course, not being realized that this was the actual gold coin that belonged to him. So definitely him taking that kind of already put the suspect of like, oh, why would you have that gold coin all of a sudden? Like, and obviously his older brother's like chewing him out because like, you weren't supposed to do that, man. Like, that was what got us arrested, what got us chosen in the end. And Perry's just trying to calm them down, like everything, even though like it's not officially his case yet. He's still thinking that like, yeah, there is something here to work to fight for. So it's not entirely like something that just to pass over, so to speak. So he and Della regroup back in his office, and they're talking, and he tells her the truth, like, yeah, I want to take on the case. That I think there's enough for us to work with for us to maybe win the case. Della agrees, but of course, obviously, they'll need a battle strategy. They'll need like a plan, something to kind of keep them going for a little bit longer, as well as to keep Sonny at base. And Sonny's basically their only real client right now that's actually paying them consistently to like keep the money flow going for the thing while they're taking on this extra case. So they decide to like get him a project, get him like, hey, we got these 5 properties throughout the entire state of California that's about to go into foreclosure. So you can scoop them up for a steal, and you can expand Sonny's to a franchise. In like 5-10 years from now, Sonny's will be a household now. It'll be the key food. It'll be the shop, right? The Stop and Shop, the Giant. I'm on it. Supermarket names. I know there's more throughout the West Coast. I know. I've been there before. And Sonny's like, you know what? I agree. I like your moxie, guys. I like your moxie. So they keep him distracted for a while. So I think after that, they loop in Drake. Actually, not yet. So I think we really just get to like the first hearing where the bail is set, where Perry and the DA are arguing about the reasoning for for them to get bail instead of like spending the whole trial period behind bars. Immediately, Perry can tell, like, yeah, this entire room is prejudiced. They're already assuming these guys are guilty, no matter what Perry has in store for them for the case. It does not matter to them. Like, they know that, they're wrong. They're the bad guys. No bail. And even, like, when the judge, even, like, him, like, being, like, a prejudiced person as well, like, just not, viewing Perry at word as, like, anything to him. He just immediately ignored them and just, like, yep, no bail. Bail set at nothing. You get nothing. And also, there's a little bit of an issue because I think the car information got leaked, as well as, like, I think a mechanic that was probably holding the car got subpoenaed. So I'm not sure entirely what the connection was there. Hopefully next week will be a little bit more clarity to me. So yeah, I think, after that, so once they knew, like, okay, the trial's set in stone, we're not going to get them out. Like, we at least got to get more evidence to help the brothers out, to not keep them in prison any longer than they have to now. They loop in Drake to try and get him back on their team, like, as the full-time investigator for this case. And this is where Drake kind of, like, voices his concern, like, for the last 6 months that, when season 1 ended, Perry, like, promises them, you're going to have a consistent caseload. You're going to have money in your pocket for your family. And then that suddenly dried up. And the fact that also that Perry latched him off the strict and also caused him to have a good man sentenced to prison as well. Drake's not entirely on board with Perry, to be honest with you right now. He really isn't, but he is thinking of his family. He is thinking of the brothers that, like, okay, I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to help you. Because, there is a right to, there's something to do right here right now. So they agreed to do them off. So they're going off on their own separate things. Meanwhile, there was like a mysterious scene where, someone is looking at the evidence log, with black glove, the black coat, and they're just putting something in the evidence. So I'm not sure if that was going to be used for or against, but it's planted, and the cop's like, I didn't say anything. I don't know what's going on. Shitty people. Where do we go from there? Yeah, so after that, so Perry and Drake are going off to go check the evidence, see if they can find anything that can, like, help them lead into something further. Della's looking into the records that the rich family owns, and they find one thing that, like, there is this boat that every time that would be sold often. It's a very shitty boat that's always run by shell companies. So basically the thing is that If I can understand this, I could be wrong. I'm not a legal expert. I was gonna be a legal expert, but I flunked that. From what I understand is that the rich guy who died made a lot of shell companies for financial reasons, for funding, for whatever the sort may be, and he would purchase stuff under this company's name, and the boat was used as an asset. That was the only asset they had for like a monetary source of income. So what would happen is that once that company would go awry, they would sell the ship to another fake shell company, and thus the first shell company would be kaput because like, hey, I don't got any money to pay this back. What do you want me to do? And they call it fit, and then they start over again with the next shell company, and that's kind of how they kept going. And the fact that the recent fire was to get insurance, I think it was to get insurance money, and they did it in international waters. So like it was far enough from California to not be in California anymore. So technically, he cannot be held liable on something that happened outside their jurisdiction. So they were all good to go. So that was kind of the shitty thing. So that obviously there was unpaid debts, there were unpaid, things. And eventually they found out like, okay, this one guy was involved there. That opens up the door to so many potential suspects there. So that definitely is something to look. So the first place they want to check out is the boat itself. The very fabled cursed boat, so they decide to head. So it's only Perry and Drake. Della decides to go out with that mysterious girl that we saw last episode. She takes her out for like a boxing date. And honestly, after seeing Creed 3 and everything, I was like, yeah, like let's fucking go. I'm all in on boxing right now, so to speak. And her teaching her the rules a little bit. Della not quite being fully interested, but then getting interested towards the end was actually kind of nice to see like a little bit of like, a little growth between them, so to speak. So Perry and Drake are off on the boat. They're going to check around. Perry's just like on the main casino floor, just looking around before he decides to head into the underbelly of the boat. Then we have Drake interviewing the crew members, kind of asking how their conditions are like, working on a boat that literally burns every 5 fucking months or something like that. They're pretty nonchalant about it, like, yeah, they notice it too, but like, money's money, so they're not really going to argue too much about that. Perry keeps heading into the underbells. He sees like a very shady meeting happening. And he sees like an officer that he recognizes. I'm not sure if it's an officer we saw in season 1 per se, or just an officer Perry knows, and then we're just introducing for the first time this season. But it's definitely like, no, okay, yeah, this guy's on whoever's payroll that's here to like, basically turn the tides around for the favor of the bad guy, so to speak. So Perry manages to evade capture from his goons or fellow officers, whatever they may be. He regroups with Drake. They're about to get cornered, but Perry decides to pull a sly move out, faking a fake toast and getting everyone's attention on him, managing to buy him and Drake a little bit of time for them to escape off the boat. I don't know how they escaped off the boat, because like, again, they're in the middle of the ocean, unless they have like boats like ready to go beneath the bow or something. I really don't know, but they're able to escape, leaving the officers to be pretty pissed off that the fact that Perry got away from him again. I'm assuming again. I'm pretty sure they have history there. And then so after that, we get to, I think, the last scene of the episode where Perry is not Perry. I want to say it's the same cop. I want to say he gets so mad, or a different heavyset person. I'm not really sure. Goes to the mechanic we saw in that one random scene earlier, who got the subpoena. He literally like holds him pretty quickly, like crushes him, and then he puts him on this like crusher. So he puts his head there and he kills him, and then he calls some mysterious rich guy in a suit, telling him, yeah, he's dead, and the guy burns the subpoena. So I don't know what this all means. I think I should know what this means. This is Mystery 101, but like, I really don't know what they're trying to go with there. Like, if he was like going to be a problem for them down the road with the case or something else. I really don't know 100%, but that was the end of this week's episode of Perry Mason. Like I said at the top, I think this episode definitely was like, elevating the circumstances a little bit, like actually getting like the whole mystery in motion. Last week was like getting the mystery story as well as, returning back to the world after 2+ years, which it worked. This episode definitely, like, laid down the foundation of what they were fighting for, with the brothers and everything, with Perry getting back into it. I also like the fact they were setting up Perry's world a little bit more, like his private world. Like, we knew the core conflict for him was his family home last season. This season seems to be just like trying to keep his family, stable, especially with his son now, trying to like continue having an established relationship with him. Della kind of luring into like, this woman maybe like, can be something great. Doesn't have to be something official, but could be something great. Like definitely like pushing her boundaries a little bit. Drake having a little bit of like a moral dilemma now with Perry and the others is like definitely needed. Like, kind of keep his tunes in check. See like, what is the lines he's willing to cross now with this mystery. And once again, like I'm just curious to see how this is all connected. Like who was the big baddie? Why did he do what? How is this all connected? Is all I want to know at the end of the day, and I can't wait to see how that's all going to turn out. But for me, I'm going to give this episode 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of Perry Mason? Let's have a conversation down below as always. And I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the second season of Perry Mason. If you want to know what we're doing normally on What's the Two beside our Perry Mason episode reviews, right now we're really not doing anything. This week we have our Walker Independent Season 1 review, non-spoiler, so you can go check that out. It will cost you no spoilers. Don't worry about that. And I believe next week we are back with the Rookie and Rookie Feds and Walker. I don't believe so. I could be wrong. I think it's either the week after that or the week next. I forgot. But I do believe it's next week. I want to say it is. But if you don't care about Perry Mason, your luck, we'll be back next week with a brand new episode review, so stay tuned until then. But until next time, stay safe out there. Be good to each other. Please subscribe to us, ring the bell for notifications, like, favorite, share, and follow us on social media. But until we see each other again next week, it is hopefully. Peace out.